So Madhvi, you are a special mom yourself. So
Yeah.
what message would you have for other special moms?
Yeah, it's been 22 years. Varun is my eldest son, and I was so young when he was born. I was 26 and didn't know anything about raising a child, forget about raising a special child. So, after his diagnosis, there's so much confusion, there's so much lack of information that caused so much stress, in our life, and didn't know where to look for help actually. And what happened was, most of the times those days, I used to uh, completely focus on Varun and not take care of my self, my health, my well-being, my mental health, physical health. Read a lot about this, get worried more and more about the condition, uh, and didn't know who to discuss this with, because the whole family was going through the same thing. The only person I could go to was my husband, and even for him it was a new thing. He did not really have a solution, but I could just tell him things like, probably he would never speak, he may be non-verbal, and he was like, it's okay, we'll figure out a way to communicate with him and all. But it used to bother a lot, bother me a lot as to how to get help for him. In the process, I have really taken it to heart, and I made helping my child my life's purpose. In the whole process, I ignored my health. Almost for the first decade after the diagnosis, my health was totally not in my control. Thyroid condition. In a few years, I really gained weight, and I had so many health issues that time. But when I look back, I think that I should not have taken so much to heart. There was no need, because if once you accept that there is this condition and it's a lifelong condition, there's only that much as a parent you can do, you know. But still, as mothers, we feel that we can do some major things, and we can undo the condition, we can lose the diagnosis. We try to take up so much upon them that we ignore our health. So my only request to all the young moms who have a newly diagnosed child or a very young child with ASD, don't ignore your health. Take care of your health. Uh, go to the doctor frequently. Have a good diet. Do exercise. Talk to somebody. Make some friends. Have a social life. You know. Um, Spend some time exclusively for yourself, like maybe go for walks, or go watch a movie, or go to the beauty parlor, go to the spa, get a massage, or just they ask somebody to take care of your child for a few hours, sleep, watch Netflix, do it. Basically do anything that you want to do, but make sure that you also get enough attention, not just your child. Because if your health is at risk, and if your well-being is not taken care of by you, because you have to take care of your well-being and your child's well-being. If you're not well, there won't be anybody for your child. So my only advice is, put yourself first, take care of yourself, and then if you take care of yourself and you're happy, you're hale and hearty, your child cannot be unhappy, your child cannot be unhealthy. Because if you're in your good state of mind, you will make good decisions for you and your family and your child. That I've learned after a long time. And once I shifted my focus and started taking care of my health, my well-being, my whole family's well-being is improved. The whole environment in the house changes. There's no anger, there's no frustration in the family. So that's what I would suggest young moms.
So right. It comes up across a lot. Moms generally ignore their health, mental health, especially, right? Physically, they
Yes,
push themselves, and it takes a toll on them completely.
yes, it
One thing
does.
that comes across a lot, the young moms that come to me, they ask this question, and it's a very becomes a little tricky question. So I'm going to put it across to you so you can answer that. You
Sure.
have a second child, right? Pranav, yes. And he's also doing great, right? So you are a lucky mom, so to say. But a lot of moms come and ask that, should we have a second child? How does it impact a child with special needs, or the second child will have the same deficits maybe? So what would you tell them?
So having a second child, I'm not against it or anything, but I think that if you have not understood the child's condition, if your first child is taking significant amount of your time, having a second child is asking, I mean, signing up for more responsibility, more work, more demands on you. You know, when I had my second child, Varun was not diagnosed with autism. I just thought I'll have two children immediately, one after the other, and then I would go back to my career. So Varun was, when Varun was around, Pranav and Varun are just 14 months apart. So Varun wasn't diagnosed with autism. Maybe if Varun was diagnosed with autism, maybe I would have delayed to have a second child, because I always wanted to have two children, and I did not know the genetic angle also that time, that if you have a child with autism, then you have a 50% chance of your second child having autism. So all these things I did not know. It just happened that I had two children consecutively, and the second child doesn't have autism. Okay. I mean, even if the second child had autism, I wouldn't have done anything. I would have taken that also in my stride. But what I'm saying is, if you are overwhelmed with your first child and this special needs your child has, I would say take some time, think it through. You know, don't come under the pressure that the family puts on you to have another child.
Right.
When after 2 years or 3 years, when you feel that you are in control of the situation, and then maybe it's a good idea to have another child if you're still wanting to have the second child, and go for a genetic counselor to get the consultation, and also get your test done to see what is there a chance for your second child to have autism, and you still want to go ahead. Of course, that's your choice. As a parent, you can choose, but I think it should be an informed choice, not an impulsive or an emotional choice. So I'm so glad that I have my second child. You know, I'm so glad that he's in our life. But informed decisions are always better. I think the times are different. This was 22 years ago. We did not have the information we have now. I think younger mothers now are more equipped with information, and they can make informed decisions. That's what I think. Yeah.
Completely right. And what you mentioned is completely right. Not make an emotional decision rather than an informed decision would be good
Mhm.
for them completely.
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Monthly times have changed. You're right. It's been 22 years. But a lot of times when mothers come to me, they have a concern that parents or extended relatives see them as responsible. Though we know science has proved that mothers are not responsible for the condition of the child. But there's a lot of pressure on young mothers, right? And that's why the second child also, the pressure of the second child also comes. Right. So what do you think about that?
No, I feel that the the mothers the family needs to see the mother as a very valuable part of the family, you know, not just somebody who produces children, you know, for the family to carry the family name forward. In India, you know what I mean to say, right?
You're
In
so
India,
right
a lot of
about
times
that.
women give birth to children, and then if they get a son, then the son carries the family name forward, if it's a patriarchal society, which most of our country is, and where women are only seen as producers of children,
Hmm.
you know, and in many rural parts, and so even in urban parts. I mean, I'm in a city, like a lot of these that who come to our center are educated families, and the mothers come and tell me that their family thinks that they have caused autism to their child, because there is something wrong with the mother. The child has autism,
Hmm.
you know. So they forget that you need X and Y chromosome, you know, genetic material from both the parents to have this child, not just one parent. Just the mother happens to carry the child in her womb, but she's not responsible for every illness or every condition that the child has. So even if the child has a condition, so what, you know. uh, the family should own it as together, as a joint thing. Own the child, love the child unconditionally, and not just blame each other who caused the condition, but if they can support the mother so that she can take a breath, understand what's happening around her, and then figure out a way forward. Should I go for therapy? Should I get my child for early intervention? How do I organize my life now? I have this huge thing that has come upon me. I don't know how to handle this, because as mothers, they go through so much stress. Once the diagnosis happens, imagine you go with the diagnosis, immediately people are pouncing on you and saying, you have caused the condition, you are responsible for this, you are like that, you are like this. So I don't think it's fair. A lot of parents, I know of many families where husbands have sent their wives off from their homes in other countries, and after they came back to India, they've changed their visas, they've changed their jobs, and this poor lady is not able to go back to whichever country that she has come from because of visa issues. Husband has changed the mobile number. She's not able to reach the phone, and it's crazy. I mean, I feel that it's so unfair. The lady is already struggling. You just cannot walk out on her, you know. So actually, in fact, if anybody can do anything, be compassionate, be loving, extend a helping hand, support her, ask her to take a breath, go sleep, rest. We'll take care of your child while, for 2 hours while you want to take a nap in the afternoon. Nothing. They just say, now it's your headache, you deal with it, as if, the child is only her responsibility. So it's really important for the families to support Isha. There's no way the mother can do it all by herself. I mean, I could not do anything for Varun if my mother was not there. My brothers, my sister, my father, my husband, his family. Like I had to travel on work because of work. And then his sister, my husband's sister, used to come and stay. My mother and sister, I don't even have to tell. I don't even know how many hundreds and hundreds of hours of support that they've given me, so that I could go watch a movie, so that I could just say, I'm going to leave Varun for 2 days so that I just want to sleep. I'm tired. So they would just keep Varun. I know that Varun is in safe place. I can sleep without fearing something will happen. So it's so important. Otherwise, I would have lost my mind. It's not easy to bring up a child with autism. It takes, as they say, it takes a village to bring up a child. I think if you have a child with autism, it takes 10 villages to bring up a child, not one, because it's 10 times more the effort, because we don't know what to do. I'm not saying it's hard, because we are figuring out how to help him, because we don't know how to help him. So that figuring out takes a lot of toll on your health, because it's like you are given a very exotic gadget to use, which is very priceless and very expensive and very valuable, but you don't know how to operate it. You know that you have this valuable, priceless machine or whatever thing with you, and you know that it will change your life, but you don't know how to work with it. It's like you don't have a user manual to use it, And then that your child's brain is, you have a child with autism, and this child is bright, intelligent, smart, but you can't teach him how to speak. You can't teach him how to do his own work. You can't teach him how to read and write. How hard is that for a mother? Everybody's saying that your child is fine, your child has high IQ, but you're not able to teach the basic things that you would expect a child to do. So it's a pretty frustrating experience. You feel helpless. You need support. You need people, like you need therapists, you need professionals, you need family, you need your society. Imagine if your neighbor is, I know of mothers who come and tell me, ma'am, my son never gets invited for birthday parties in my apartment because my son has autism. The ladies in the neighborhood have completely banned me from invitations. I feel so bad. What's wrong in allowing a child into the birthday party? I mean, how cruel is that? In case I'll be the first person to invite if I know that somebody has a child with special needs. I want that person to be part of the community. And here in our country, we are so ruthless and so selfish and self-centered that we don't allow these kids into our birthday parties. I remember a few years, not years ago, decades ago, 1.5 decades ago, I got an invitation to some prestigious club in Hyderabad for an evening, party. And I remember this gentleman who called me and said, Madhi, why don't you come and join? It's my birthday. It's in the boat club of Hyderabad. There is something, the sailing club. It's called the sailing club. It's a very prestigious club in Hyderabad. And he said, the party is in the club. You can bring your other son who does not have autism, but I suggest you don't bring the one who has autism, because I don't think it's suitable for him. I immediately told him that, look, whatever, I don't want to reveal his name. I told him that, look, I'm sorry, I don't think I'll be able to come. I don't want to go and attend any get-togethers where one of my two children is not invited. I said, sorry, I won't be coming. You don't have to worry about any of my children. Focus on your party, have a good time, and have a good birthday. I just disconnected the call. That's it. So it's so mean, right? I mean, you just can't do that to people, and especially to moms. So it's so important for the community, for the family, for the neighborhood to come together and to make this person feel welcome and feel valued, So that's how I feel about
You're completely right.
And how they should be
about
treated.
The taboo and the biasness that kids with special needs and moms with kids with special needs go through. But something that comes across also is, Madhvi, when
that's why, sorry,
go on.
One more thing I wanted to add. That's why, I'm totally against forming exclusive moms groups only for autism. I think that we should be part of all the groups. We should not separate ourselves. It's so confusing for me when I create a separate group for only moms with children with autism, and then I'm only separating myself from the community and saying that I'm not part of your community, and then I'm expecting people to be. I think inclusion should happen everywhere. We should also be out there, talk about everything, talk about our children's condition, go all over the place and say things that people don't know about. I think most of the times all this happens because of ignorance, sheer ignorance, lack of awareness. It's like that. I feel that we should be everywhere. We should not cut ourselves off from the society. That's important.
No, true. I get that completely. But if you see from some parents' point of view, right, I completely understand from where you're coming. But they may have the concerns of security, maybe, safety, maybe. So if, for example, a kid with severe autism is going in a birthday party, right? So there will be a lot of sensory issues also, sensory stimulations also. Yeah. Different kinds of maybe safety issues also. Where would the child go, or all the time the child has to be kept in somewhere in front of the eyes or something like that. So a lot of moms do not want to get part of those groups also because of the safety concerns. How do you think they should handle that?
I think our children should go everywhere and they should learn how to be part of every situation. Imagine if we don't take them for so many, there'll be so many reasons. See, a 3-year-old is a 3-year-old. Even if the 3-year-old does not have autism, if a place is not safe, it's not safe for everybody.
Yes.
Other 3-year-olds are going to the place. I'm not saying take your child to a pub. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if other 3-year-olds are going to that place, we should take our 3-year-old. That's the only way we can make them get used to the situations. If other 3-year-olds are going, in a minivan to the school, I would train my child to go in a minivan. If other 3-year-olds are going to a park and playing, our children should go. If other 3-year-olds are going to a birthday party, our 3-year-olds should. They learn, They have to start somewhere. If there is a problem, they should be taught how to behave, how
hide behind the
handle the noise. At least you can be there for 10 minutes, 5 minutes to begin with, and then slowly build on that, and then make it eventually 1 hour or half an hour. Then completely cutting themselves off from those kind of social situations, because if the more we take them away from society, the more in seclusion they become. Then where is the inclusion that we are talking about? Yesterday it was Good Friday, and my mother, father, we went to their place, and the whole day I was there from 12 till evening, till about 8 or 9. My mother just moved into a house and there was some problem with her AC. So there was no AC. There were only coolers running. It was pretty hot. And Varun, I felt that maybe Varun will. Then I thought to myself, what happens one day if my child struggles a little without AC? It's okay. Let him just get used to it. Some days they could, even in our house, some days there could be a problem with AC and it doesn't work. We don't have to make such a big deal about everything. Yeah, let them adjust. Even I wasn't comfortable. But I was there till about 6 to 7 hours. I was there in that warm weather, in the heat, you know. It was fine. It was uncomfortable. I'm not saying it was great. It was uncomfortable. But what I wanted him to understand is, it's okay. Some days there is no AC. Just deal with it. There's no problem if there's no AC one day, you know. So I think our parents have to understand that. The more we protect them, the more we seclude them, the more difficult it is going to become for them to be part of the society that they want to be. It's confusing for parents. They say, ma'am, I want everybody to invite my child to the birthday party. Then you have to also teach your child how to behave in a birthday party, and also teach the person who's inviting about autism, so that, you know, it's, you have to educate the whole community about the condition. It cannot happen one way. You know, like I was telling you a few days ago that it's a two-way process. And in fact, sometimes we have to also educate the people who don't know about autism, and we have to educate the person who has autism about how to be with people who don't have autism. So we have so much job. I mean, it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy, because we have to teach them, we have to teach our child. But if you want your child to be included in a society, there is no other way. That's how it works, you know. So there's no easy way, but it's possible to be inclusive. I have not thought about any place where I can't go with Varun off late. Not a single place. We go for movies together, we go to malls together, we go and buy groceries together, we go to wherever. I myself am I have my very small social circle. So he goes everywhere I go. I don't see any problem in taking Varun. If he's uncomfortable, I tell him that it's okay one day. That's how it is, Nana. Just get used to it. We'll go back in the evening, you know. Some days he doesn't probably get to eat the food that he likes every single day, but one day it's okay not to eat the food that you don't like. I mean, that you like. It's eat whatever is available. You're just eating to survive. You don't have to eat delicious food every single day, you know. So I think it's upon us also. Instead of just blaming others, I think we should also take it upon ourselves. We have to train the society to have our children in the society. So
you're right. And some of the things that you mentioned are belonging to the daily life skills. And that is something that I wanted to talk about. I mean, when you started this journey, a lot of therapies, as in structured therapies, were not available. They're still not available in the rural areas in this country, at least. I don't know about the other countries, but in this country, at least. So therapy versus, after a diagnosis, parents generally rush for therapies, right? So therapy versus daily life skills. What do you think can be compensated? What is more important? What can we do away with? How would you do that?
I wouldn't ever say therapy is not important. Definitely therapy is important, but along with therapy, social skills, life skills are as important, not less important. When I think what is less important for me is academics, overly focusing on academic part. My child is 4 years old. He has to write. He has to know 1, 2, 3, you know, till 100 or ABCD and all the spellings. And I don't think that's going to get the child anywhere. If you just know the literal spelling or the literal alphabet, what's the use if the child is not able to communicate? For me, comprehension is more important. Expressive and receptive language understanding is more important. You know, mingling with other children is more important. Playing with other children is more important. Self-help skills like wearing one's own clothes, you know, brushing your own teeth, eating your own food, tidying up after you eat, putting things back in the bag. For your little children, that's more important than a child just sitting and writing 1 to 100, but is peeing in his pants, is not toilet trained, or perpetually on diaper, but can do NIOS till 10th. What's the use? I know of 16-year-olds who wear diapers, but who do NIOS 10th with 60-70%. And if I give them, as I told you before also, if I tell them to get a change for 10 rupees, they don't know how to do. So over insistence on academics is not required, I feel. If you can, a child can read and write, literacy and numeracy, and also understand a lot and do a lot of his own work, that's more important than simply making children learn numbers, learn letters of the alphabet, learn spellings. That's absolutely no for me. That's shifting the focus from independence and inclusion. The more your child is socially not able to be part of any community, the more secluded he is going to get. I think we need our children to be more socially accepted and be part of the community than make him socially secluded. There's no true inclusion that's going to happen in that case. And if you yourself are ashamed of taking your child because of whatever social issues the child has, then why are we even asking for inclusion? Are we ready for inclusion? That's a question we need to ask. If you're ashamed to take your child to public places, if you're ashamed to showcase your child, then sorry, I don't think we are ready. So people are confused. I think they need to think about what my priorities are, what makes my child more socially acceptable. Just learning ABCD or being independent, individual. Can you leave your child in your friend's house for 3 days when you want to travel for work? Is the child independent enough to look after himself? If provided the child is in a safe place? That's my question to you parents. I think that's your ultimate goal. By the time your child is 12 or 13, if you are able to leave your child like you would do your other child who does not have autism, in somebody's in your brother's house, sister's house, friend's house, and you can go for 4 days and come back and everything is fine, then that's ultimate independence for me. I think that's your goal. The child should be able to look after himself. Yes, there'll be food given to them. They're in a safe place. The rest, the child should be able to take care. Can your child WhatsApp you? Can your child talk to you using the phone? Can your child communicate anything that's upsetting him by calling you? That's important. Not just get addicted to phone and play some games or watch YouTube videos incessantly morning to evening. That's not being smart. Can he use a smartphone for the purpose it's meant to be? Not just watch videos continuously. Of course, they can watch videos, but that's not the purpose of a smartphone. The phone is meant to actually communicate. Can your child use the phone to communicate? Then also use for other purposes. And also tell you, self-regulate when you say, now stop using it. I want you to put it away so that you can get back to some work. Can you have this kind of conversation? Will your child accept that at all? That's the kind of independence that I'm talking about. Yeah.
Fair enough. I do understand the point, though. It's good. You mean the daily skills, the daily life skills with therapies, right?
Yeah.
Early intervention therapies, of course.
Yes.
It's a comprehensive development.
See, therapies.
All right.
Isha, a lot of times people are saying homeschooling, home therapy. I'm not a very big supporter of that because I think we need professionals. Imagine if I want to assess my own child, what's the point in you, a person like you, being around? You've studied your whole life, you've got training from so many big places for your profession as a clinical psychologist. I would rather go to a clinical psychologist for help that she can provide or he can provide. I would go to a speech therapist for the help that speech therapist would provide. I would go to an OT for the OT help. I would go to a behavior therapist for behavior. But as a parent, I wouldn't forget my goal. What is my ultimate goal? And then I would ask all these people to support me in reaching the goal for the child. Rather than saying that I'm going to homeschool. It's become a new fad. I'm getting a headache when I hear homeschool. Homeschool, it's being very confused in India. I don't think that they'll have a proper plan with them. There's no professional support that the parents need. Simply teaching ABCD 1, 2, 3 is not homeschooling. Especially for special children, you need all the specialists with you who can support you, and then you can do whatever you want, homeschooling or no homeschooling. But for me, even homeschooling, the focus of homeschooling is independence, not 1, 2, 3 ABCD. That's what I wanted to say.
A concern that comes from a professional's point of view. I've always faced with few parents, of course, that when parents come with their child, they put the child in therapy, right? And almost feel that, okay, the therapist is going to take care of everything. I don't have to work with the child when the child goes home. So we always feel there's a disconnect. We have the child for 3 hours. That's it. So, I mean,
that too, if they're coming for the 3-hour program that we are doing.
Yes.
Some children come just for 45 minutes. If they're just coming for 45 minutes to the center for speech therapy, the remaining 23 hour, 15 minutes is the child is with them.
Yes.
A lot of times I have had these uncomfortable conversations with parents where they tell me, Ma'am, my child is coming to your center for 2 months, ma'am. My child's speech has not still improved.
Hmm.
What you do in the rest of the 23 hours is as important as what we do in this 45 minutes. In this 45 minutes, we can just start the therapy, but you need to continue the therapy at home,
Hmm.
you know. That's why we give a home plan. We give weekly plans in advance to the parents. We give them term plans. We have all the goals listed. We give the IEPs. If the parents want activities, we give them the activities. If the parents don't work at home, no matter how many hours of therapy that you do, it's of no use. Therapy alone doesn't work. You complementing the therapy at home along with the therapist, actually that gives very good results than the therapy just going on perpetually forever. That might give you a little bit of result. I'm not saying it won't. It will give you some result, but not the kind of result that we are looking for. We're looking for huge results. We're looking for children to go as close to a typically developing peer as possible in terms of all these communication, whatever, OT, sensory issues have to significantly reduce. The child should be able to go to school, should be able to sustain, stay in school, finish schooling, go to college. For all those things, you need to work with the therapist, you need to work with the school. Otherwise, just because you paid the fees in school and you pay the fee in therapy center, the child won't be fixed and returned to you after being fixed. There's no fixing that happens. Yeah,
That's the right word, actually. A lot of parents do feel that we have the child for certain
we are paying you,
time-bound
so you
thing.
fix us.
Fix us.
We're paying you, fix our child and return. How many months program is yours? 6 months. In 6 months, I can pick up a child who's fixed. No. If autism was fixable, if autism was a condition that can be treated, my 20-year-old son wouldn't still have autism. I would have fixed him and closed the center and got on with my life and got some other job. If I'm still doing this for the 14 years of my life, I don't think it's just fixable. It's not a condition where you just go fix people. It's not possible. Yeah.